Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Charles Overby, chairman of the Overby Center for Southern Journalism and Politics. I want to welcome you to our first program of the fall semester. I want to thank you for coming in this environment. I want to thank our audience for wearing your mask. You'll see that I'm not wearing my mask. There was a play recently down the road, and the people who sat in the audience were asked to wear masks, but the performers did not wear their masks. And so we have 3 performers on this stage tonight who may or may not wear masks. We did ask that you sit back a little bit so you don't have to get my spittle or whatever that might come from my mouth. This is a real treat to have everybody here. We took a year off because of COVID to not have any programs. This is the first time in 11 years. Curtis always keeps me honest on the number of years. It was the first time we hadn't had any programs, so it's good to be back in the programming. In that regard, we've got a robust series of programs this fall, and the next one is Wednesday, September 22nd, with the Honorable and Esteemed Curtis Wilkie. And there'll be a conversation between Curtis and me about not only his latest book, but his illustrious career. He's retired for at least the second time, and we'll be talking about that.
Yeah.
Tonight, I want to welcome people here at the Overby Center, of course, and we want to welcome everyone in Zoom land who have Zoomed in from around the country. And I want to welcome our YouTube audience who will be there for posterity. That's a warning to you, Don, and to you, Larry, that your comments will be archived in YouTube forever. When the last cockroach is off the earth, your comments will still be available on YouTube.
Okay.
We do have 2 of the most remarkable success stories that I know of. I've been around a lot of success stories in my 50-plus years of career, but never more so than tonight with Larry Martindale and Don Cole. And there's so many things that we could and will talk about tonight, but I think to the heart of our conversation is their character and what allowed them to have such an amazing success, a rise, an unlikely rise, I would say, to the top of their fields. It's a little overwhelming to see what these 2 guys have done, and I hope we can have that conversation. I think all of you know that tomorrow at 9 o'clock there's going to be a ceremony over at what a few of us remember as the old gym. More lately has been known as the Martindale Student Center, and starting tomorrow it will be officially dedicated the Martindale Cole Student Center. And that story in itself could take up our entire time. But the reason those 2 names are on the building is because of the character of these 2 people. And as I have studied over the years their success, what makes it so interesting to me is the unlikelihood of it. Don, he's thrown out of Ole Miss. He couldn't even get back into Ole Miss because of what he was perceived to have done. And then he rises to the top levels at Ole Miss. Larry, just his being able to come to Ole Miss at all was amazing. And then when he got out of Ole Miss, he was cleaning toilets at the Waffle House, and he rose to the ranks of president of Ritz-Carlton. Now you just don't see that every day. So I hope our students and people who are viewing will begin to try to grasp what it was, that intangible thing that allowed these 2 remarkable individuals to do what they did and how they did it. Because there are other success stories waiting to happen of students here at Ole Miss. So Larry, I want to start with you. It was pretty unlikely that you would come to Ole Miss at all. Tell us what was the motivating factor and enabling factor that allowed you to get from rural West Tennessee to here at Ole Miss?
I drive to play basketball to get off the farm. You know, I was grew up on a little farm, 2 houses on it, and my father was a sharecropper, and the other house was a black family that lived on it. And there was a kid my age, and we started at about 8 years old. First we had to milk the cows every morning, and then we'd go work in the field. And we'd worked in the fields till about 10:30. That my mom would bring us peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, a potted meat and egg sandwich, and we ate them under a tree. And we'd lay there for an hour and then we'd get back in the field and work. And then we would go play basketball. We played basketball every day, and shot hoops. We did that every day. And my goal was I had to play basketball, get a scholarship to go to college. So that was my driving point, and I stuck with it. I mean, it was a journey, but it worked out well. And to get a scholarship here, I can't tell you what it meant to me. Eddie Crawford was my coach that offered me the scholarship, and I couldn't believe it. You know, got here, growing up on a farm. My parents moved to Wilson, Arkansas, my senior year. So I graduated from Wilson High School, and Eddie Crawford came over there and watched me play and offered me a scholarship. And I came here, and growing up on the farms is always flat land and things growing, not a lot of big trees. And when I first got to Ole Miss and saw all the trees and the buildings, blew me away, And so it was a change in my life, and that was in 1964. And I've loved Ole Miss ever since.
So there was quite a collection of basketball players back then. I know because I was the dorm manager for the basketball team.
Yeah, that's how far we go back.
There are stories that will not be told here tonight. Don, it's equally unlikely that you would be coming to Ole Miss. Talk about what it was that motivated you to want to come to Ole Miss, and then you might say a word about how it was that you were invited not to attend Ole Miss.
Sure. Thank you, Charles. And thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon and for making this program possible. And as I look at it in the audience and see so many people that I admire, it makes the program so very, very special to me. I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi, and I grew up there. And I grew up in an integrated neighborhood, and a segregated neighborhood, rather. And I went to a segregated high school. And the University of Mississippi happened to have been integrated before I graduated. It was integrated in 1962. What I can remember most about that was being a little boy in the 6th, 7th grade or so, and I was outside playing, having so much fun. And I ran into the house keeping a lot of noise. And time I ran in with all of the noise. Shh! Shh! That was my parents. I don't know why that sticks with me so, and I remember that. And they were looking at the television, so I looked, and my mother said, "The University of Mississippi is being integrated." I don't know if I've seen that type of expression on her face before. Something big was happening. When I looked at the television, all I saw was a lot of mean folk, mean-looking folk. And so I said to myself, I would never go to a place like that. And you fast forward 6 years, when I graduated from high school, it was possible for me to come here. and many of my colleagues would liken unto me would either go to a historically black institution or out of state. And so I was expected to do one of those, but wanted to do something different. And the University of Mississippi was, quote, different. But when I first set foot on this campus, just like you said, beautiful. And I just loved it and fell in love with it and pursued it. And I wasn't the only one, but maybe 3 or 4 of my high school schoolmates came here as well.
Yes, that's terrific. And so you were here for a couple of years before you committed an audacious act that led to your ouster. You want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, just for a moment. So when I first got here, I was a little naive because I knew that University of Mississippi had been integrated, and for some reason I thought that it had been thoroughly integrated. But I was a little surprised to find places on campus that didn't want to serve me, teachers that didn't want to teach me.
And this was 6 years after James Meredith had been admitted.
Its integration, yeah. But when you think about it, you recall that 62 Meredith was the single individual to come here of color. 63, maybe 2 or 3 came. 60 the next year, 3 or 4. So if you think about it, it wasn't many people here of color to integrate the entirety of the University of Mississippi. And so I immediately felt myself comfortable. Now, if anybody in here is old enough to remember the late 60s, and 1 or 2 probably is, then you know that America was in an uproar.
Yes.
Everything was going on. The Vietnam War was going on, being protested. Women's rights was being protested. Civil rights was being protested. And it wasn't long before the few people of color on this campus began to protest as well. And it was probably in that protesting period that the university and I were then separated.
So there was a specific event. I think it was an Up With People event, and there were 7 of you. I never was clear on exactly what it was that you did. Did you stand up during the concert and disrupt it, or what?
Well, it was a concert going on campus, and it was it's kind of international individuals coming in. And so the idea was that if we could attract attention to the University of Mississippi, then that attention would certainly cause the pressure to be brought to the university and changes to occur. And so it was a perfect time to protest, and we did, and we went inside the building, and we went up on the stage, and then marched off of the stage in terms of protesting, and we were promptly arrested, and
You spent the night in jail, 2 nights in jail,
a
right?
couple of nights in jail.
How was the Oxford jail back then? The food wasn't necessarily what you were looking for?
I wouldn't recommend it.
And so then you were kind of summarily expelled, right?
That's right, and it's a little unclear to me whether or not I was ever suspended or expelled. I think one that you can't come back, and I don't know which one it was. But yes, I was separated from the university, and that was a pretty sad time.
Yeah.
I couldn't get in any other school. I couldn't continue my career. I had come here with hopes of degreeing from here. I had come here on the back of my church, my community. Boy, was that embarrassing to get expelled from the university. And there were a number of people who let me know that that I should not have done anything to make that happen. So that was a pretty bad time. So I heard you say let Larry clean a few toilets. At that time, I went north and worked in the steel mills for a while.
Mm-hmm. And then you tried to reapply to get back into Ole Miss, and they rejected you.
That is true.
So you went elsewhere to get your
I
education.
ended up going elsewhere. Historically Black institution, Tougaloo College, found me, and and welcomed me to come there. And boy, was I happy to be able to get back in school. And in the steel mills, they didn't like doing mathematics. They didn't like Shakespeare. They didn't the people that you talk with. They were just different type of folks.
So where did you get your aptitude for mathematics?
Oh boy, that's a long story, but it's a beautiful story at the same time. I got it fairly early, and the name Carolyn Sue comes up. She was a little girl that I liked who couldn't stand me, but she wasn't good at math, and so I worked all my little math book out ahead of time so that if Carolyn Sue wanted to know anything, she would ask me, and then maybe she would fall deeply in love with me. But that never happened. But the math part did stick.
That's so good. So, Larry, you graduated from Ole Miss. I don't think it was your goal to go to the MBA, but maybe it was. You never told me it was.
No.
It was. So, how is it that you went from Ole Miss to the Waffle House?
Well, I was drafted in the Marine Corps first. Spent 2 years in the Marine Corps, Camp Pendleton, California. And I got out, and a guy, Mickey Williams, that played ball, he was 2 years ahead of me. And suddenly he got in touch with me, and he said, Larry, I want you to come to Atlanta. Waffle House they got like 100 stores, and I'm the second college graduate they've hired. And I think it's a great opportunity here. And I said, well, Mickey, I always wanted to be a coach. And he said, well, come on down. So I got on the Trailways bus out of Memphis and went down there. And he showed me all around. I met the owner's son and the owner, and went through what they were doing. But the other part is, I was staying with him and two other guys, and I was sleeping on the sofa there because they didn't have room, but there were 4 Delta flight attendants above. So that put some energy into it. Not that I ever met them, but it helped get me to Atlanta and the Waffle House. So I told him, I worked with him a couple of days, and I said, okay, I'll do this. And so they hired me. I was the 3rd college graduate they had hired. And I went through training, and as you say, washing dishes, cleaning restrooms, frying eggs, did all that. I did that for 2 years. And they then gave me a promotion, and was doing pretty good. And I enjoyed it because it turned me in. I felt like I was coaching because I was having to recruit employees, put together a game plan and execute it, and get rewarded on the results. So that got me going. And so I worked 6 years with them, and I was 28, I think. And I said, well, I want to go out and do something on my own, because the owner's son, who's still a good friend of mine, he's a Harvard graduate, and he liked to have meetings. And I'm not a meeting guy. So I wanted to go do something on my own. And the owner then told me, says, well, I've got a franchisee, our first franchisee. I'd like to introduce you to him. And the guy that's running his stores is retiring. And he's a deal maker. He's not an operator. He will not get involved in operations. I want you to meet him. Well, sure enough, we met and worked out a deal. So I started running. We wound up with about 100 and something Waffle House. We had the franchise for Virginia and Florida. Did that, and then he'd already developed hotels and Holiday Inns, and he got the first Marriott franchise in Orlando. So that's how it got started. And then he, after about 4 years. He called me one day. I was driving from Orlando to Jacksonville, and he said, "Larry, when you get to Jacksonville, catch a plane up to Atlanta. I want to talk to you." I know what that was about. But he sat down and went over with me. He said, "Now, I'd like for you to take over these hotels also." He had, I think, 11 Holiday Inns. And I said, "Well, who's going to run the Waffle House?" He said, "Well, you." And so that's how it got started. So then I had to become a better coach, hiring good people that could execute, and we could put a plan together as a team. And then it went on, same thing with Marriott, the two of them. And then in 1983, he told me, he said, "Now I want you to go to Boston this weekend and go to the Ritz-Carlton." I'd never heard of a Ritz-Carlton, you know, "and give me your thoughts on it." And yeah, because it's for sale, the one in Boston, and the guy that owned it owned the name. And so I did, and I hung around the hotel. I talked to the taxi drivers. I talked to the employees. Nobody knew. I don't want blue jeans, you know. And I tried to go in the bar to get a little beer one night, and I didn't have a blazer with me, so I couldn't get in. But they got one for me. So that's how, and I came back and met with him on Monday and gave him my thoughts, and that was in July, and that's all I know about it. Then in September, he bought the Boston Hotel and the name. And we started then developing Ritz-Carltons, and pretty much all over. And, you know, when we got out of it, I think we had 19 hotels, and, you know, it was great. But, you know, and I was telling Robert one time that, you know, the price is set at the entrance. And we learned that at our resort hotels. We had one in Laguna Beach, California, one in Naples, Florida, and one in Hawaii. And we learned the better we fixed them up, the sense of arrival is where the price is set. You know, the rates go up. First of all, and it helps you hire people. Pride of ownership. And so we did that, and the journey went on, and then I just wound up, each then company wound up with a president, and I was vice chancellor of the company that owned, but I worked with all the presidents then. So one day I might be in a Waffle House in Richmond, Virginia, and the next day I might be in Laguna Beach, California. That's just the way, I mean, it was, and I was a workaholic, Susan will tell you. I mean,
I was going to ask you, Larry, if you look back on that great rise, what do you think, looking back on it now, what was the quality, this would be helpful to the students who aspire to succeed in life, what was that one or two qualities that helped you advance?
Well, I'm a big dreamer, and I always a goal setter and a dreamer, and I just felt like that if I could surround myself with sharp people, good people, I could rise to the occasion. You know, so I learned a lot from everybody, and I learned to walk in other people's shoes. That's real important. And I've always done that, and so I just think, but I was driven.
Larry, as I've watched your career, you seem to me to personify the quality of no job too big no job too small.
Right.
That you were willing to take the big job along with the small job. Is that true?
That's very true. And I like one job as good as the other. I would spend a lot of time when I was in the hotels. I'd be in there vacuuming the floors, you know, and doing all that. I'd be in the lobby talking to people. I'm in a Waffle House. I'm back there washing dishes and doing all that. And I'll never forget one day, this was years ago, because the guy, the partner that owned it, he gave us all a Rolex, gold Rolex watch, 1978. It's 4 of us. Did that. And he did it in the Bahamas. And I had long hair. I had hair. And so we were leaving, and the other 3 came out first, and I was the last one. And they pulled me aside. They thought I was a drug dealer, you know, because I was the 4th one that had walked out with a gold Rolex watch on. And they checked me out, and that wasn't the case. But what's interesting is I was washing dishes one day at a Waffle House in Atlanta. And I had my watch on. And a woman sitting at the counter, she says, "They must pay well around here." I said, what are you talking about? She said, "Well, you got that gold Rolex watch." I said, well, I told her the story. Well, let me tell you, and Susan will tell you, I put that watch up, and it's been in for years. I have never put it back on. You know, it's just, that's
a great story, Larry. So let's go back, Don. You have gotten a couple of degrees. You still aren't back at Ole Miss, and you decided to get your doctorate at Ole Miss.
Well, that's right. After I finished my undergraduate, I went north to get a master's, and then went to another school to start the doctorate degree. And a couple of years into the doctorate, I decided that I would return to the University of Mississippi to complete that doctorate.
So that took a certain amount of forgiving spirit to do that. Help us understand what was going on in your mind. A lot of people in this room, starting with me, would probably be pretty resentful if I had been treated the way you had been treated. What gave you that forgiving spirit toward Ole Miss?
A good question, Charles. And even today, people ask me that question. Well, what made you come back, and why did you come back? And if you want me to be 100% honest, I give the answer, I don't know. But I can speculate. And because I'm asked that question often, I've turned that question around to people and asked them, why do you think I came back? What would you have done? What would it have taken for you to come back, or whatever? And many times students give a lot of good reasons. But what I suspect is that I had not failed that much, but I'd come here to get a degree, and I'd failed to do that. I had come here to make people proud and to go on and do something famous, save the world, and I hadn't done that. And so maybe it was an emptiness. I give that for a possible explanation. And I bet you that afterwards, as we ask the audience why you think he came back, they'll probably give some good reasons as well. But I did have to ponder that a little bit. But of course, I love the institution, and you can't be mad at a building and bricks and mortar. And there were some good people. There were some people that probably would try to avoid at the same time. Yeah, but I was up north, and this was my state. So coming back to the state probably was another advantage, or a real reason why I was able to come back and kind of returned as well. But But I did come back and complete
You
my
got that
doctorate.
degree, and then you went off and worked in the aerospace industry, and then you came back and did so much. Like Larry, who just shot up the ranks. You didn't just come back and be a professor or just a mentor. You did so many things here at Ole Miss, and the top people at Ole Miss, starting with Robert Kayat, tapped you to do so many important things. Well, just as I asked Larry, what do you think the quality was that you had trying to help students who are looking ahead? What was the quality that caused people to want you to be the leader and to be involved?
Well, first, I liked what I was doing, and I had opportunity to do some things that I've always wanted to do. Secondly, I was blessed to be able to work with some great people, and I've never had a bad boss, and I always enjoy satisfying my boss, and I always sort of think of myself as a diligent worker. And till this day, I can't stand for a student to come in my office and I not serve that student.
And what?
And I not serve that student.
Mhm.
You know, well, that's financial aid job. Go over there. Well, it might be their job. I'd rather take them over there.
Mhm.
I'd rather call over there and say, okay, they're on the way. But they've come there and they're in your office for some reason, and I've been on that other end, and so I just kind of desire to help. And again, I've had a lot of good people that I've worked for, and I can remember when once. One of my bosses, I worked out a little contract between our school and another school, and I needed him to sign it, and he signed that thing just because I said it was okay, and that happened not only to that boss, but that happened to another boss as well. And that means a lot, and that meant something. That made me work and desire to work a little harder. And certainly also at the same time, there were some plans for the university, and then there were some plans that the university did not have. And so the ones that they did not have, I recognized that if I wasn't going to do it, it wasn't going to get done. And so I chose to do that. And then my bosses, on top of that, would encourage me to do that. There was an unmet need. Well, yeah, go meet that need. Here's a budget to help go meet that need. Here's a time to go meet that need. Here's some resources, etc. And so I was never in a vacuum.
So when you were spending the night in the Oxford jail, could you have ever dreamed that you would be meeting the needs of the University of Mississippi in a leadership capacity that you had? Was that even a possible dream?
Not even a whisper of a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, probably just like Larry, you're doing what's before you.
Mm-hmm.
You're if you will, crossing the next mile. Of course, you might have a goal down the road, but you're not going to get to that goal until you do this part here, this early part, and you're not looking for a reward. If you're looking for a reward, you're going to be disappointed. Mm-hmm. The rewards are going to come relative to your work, and all the rewards that kind of come my way, I've been surprised by them.
Great story.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to today. These two remarkable lives coming together that we'll hear about tomorrow. And I don't want to steal the thunder from tomorrow, but I do want to have a little backstory about this. Larry and Susan very generous to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss named the student center for Larry because of your commitment to this university. And you know, people get their name on a building, they get to feeling like they're a pretty big shot Pete. Kind of go around with their chest out and thinking, I'm pretty big deal. But you didn't act that way. And
I'm not that way.
You're not that way. And you decided that you thought there ought to be another name on the building. I have never met anybody who had a name on their building who wanted to share that with anybody else. If anything, they wanted it bigger than what was already on it. So tell us the thinking behind your going from seeing your name on that building to saying there ought to be another name.
Well, you know, Susan and I and the family, real honored for that for, 20 years. And we just thought that, and we kept wanting to get involved with the university to help it grow. And diversity, everything, because I lived out of state for 50 years. And I really got tired of reading all the press that came out. And most of it was negative, And it's not just Mississippi, it's all over, but we got our share. And I said, what can we do to make university represent who we are today and the future, not the past? Because past is always good and bad in the past. But we need to focus on the good and learn from the bad. So that was kind of it. And we in fact, I talked to the chancellor about it real early on about what we'd like to do. And I talked to you. You were the first one I told. Years ago that we just need to do, and I didn't know what could happen, but it came to the point that we needed a black person's name on the building that represents who we are today at Ole Miss and the future, and so that's how it got started, and it really, I don't know, it's been a tough way to describe it. But I met, after coming to grips with needed to be a black person, I had no idea who that person would be. Had no idea who that person would be. But started exploring it, started talking to administration and all that, trying to get some feedback on some names. Who would be a great part of that university that represents it? It's different than me, different color. And his name kept popping up.
And did you know Don?
No. I met him soon after that. And what really got me real interested in when I read his history, and I tried to put myself in his shoes, how would have I handled 1972? And the way he handled that and what he's come back to do is amazing. So then I got to meet him soon, back in London Spargo, and Sue Kaiser set up a dinner for us at McEwen's, and we went and met Marcia and Don, and we had a great evening, great time. I could see, both of us could see that there's a connection there. The next day, we get in the car. We drive up to Grand Junction, Tennessee, Salisbury, up where the farm. I took him through the farm. Now, I didn't know he was a photographer, but he's taking all these pictures, and that's, and by the time we got back, I knew that was the guy. I didn't know how to get it done, And I wrestled with that, but the chancellor now, I met early and told him what I wanted to do and all that, and he said, let me look into it. Then he talked to me, and he says, I'll get it done. I said, let's do it. He said, no, it won't happen overnight. You know, because I didn't know it had to go before the IHL board. You know, I didn't know any of the process. Mm-hmm. But about 3 months later, he called me one morning and said, Larry, now I'm going into the IHL board meet tomorrow, and I'm going to present this program. What I want to do. I said, man, great. Would you call me when you get through? 10 o'clock the next morning, he called me and said, it's done, 100% backed by the IHL board, and we're moving on. And then, of course, Don and I and our family got real excited about this, and we ate together a lot, you know, and talked about this, and our friendship has just grown since then. Mm-hmm. I mean, let me just say, the dedication tomorrow of the building, it's not, the dedication is about Don Cole. And I'm saying that from the heart because the Martindale building was dedicated by Robert 23 years ago. So that part's already done. Tomorrow is about Don and the building being dedicated to him. With our roads coming together, our journeys coming together right here at Ole Miss, and it represents Ole Miss as who it is today and the future. So that's
a great story. Don, I want to go to the audience into the Zoom land for any questions that you might have. But first, Don, you had to realize that you were going to be joined at the hip with this guy, Larry Martindale, and with your name on the building. So he kind of was impressed with you. But how about you? Did you know Larry? And say a little bit about going up there, seeing where he grew up and all.
That's right. I think Larry, as I was coming into the university, Larry was leaving, so we never physically overlapped here on campus, so I didn't get a chance to know him then. And when I think I was maybe first told of the possibility of this idea, of course I didn't believe it, and I pretty much kind of fought stuff like that. I pretty much believed that buildings should probably be named after deceased people.
Well, don't get too carried away with that idea. There's no hurry on that.
No real hurry. And so when I was first approached with it, it was just it was such a profound idea until I just couldn't comprehend it, and so I never did tell my wife. She never found out from me. It was probably elsewhere that she eventually discovered it herself. And Larry and I had different career paths, and we went different ways, but what happened to us is just so typical to millions and millions of others. This place, the University of Mississippi, just has a place of bringing people together. And so it was this institution that somehow brought it together. One of my claims to fame was declaring my love for the institution. And so nobody could beat me up after that. You know, everybody knew Robert Kyatt liked it, and so I challenged him as well. How come I can't like it more than you? And, you know, et cetera. And so it's kind of been my approach. And so the Martindales and the Coles have gotten to know each other over the last, because it's been a long process. It culminates on tomorrow, and many people are just sort of finding out, but we've been doing this down this road for a good while. And it is just beautiful to kind of see these diverging roads begin to converge here on the campus of the University of Mississippi that we both treasure quite a bit.
Great story.
So the University of Mississippi is a 21st century university, and that's what I've been working at and pounding for 2,100 years.
Right.
That's
Great. So now I want to go to the audience and see if you have any questions of our two distinguished participants here. Who'll go first? Deb, can we get back here to wait just a minute for the microphone?
Thank you. So Don, this question is for you. Obviously, people are going to walk across campus in the years to come, and they're going to see your name on a beautiful building here on campus. But when people walk by, what are you hoping that they will think about you? What is your legacy beyond having a name on one of our buildings?
Well, we have lots and lots of smart students, and so some of them are going to wonder, whose name is this? What did they do? So they're going to look up Larry, and they're going to look up me as well. And they'll find Larry's story interesting, and they'll find my story interesting as well. And so what I hope that they sort of pick up is the ingenuity, is my dedication to the place, the work that's sort of put forward, and somehow within all of that hard work is success. Just one story at a time, and that will make them want to emulate it and be successful in the same way, and put forth the same work ethics, and know that if you don't give up, then the opportunities will come that way. Thank you for that question, Deb.
Who else? Joanne, wait for the mic. Right over here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm pretty emotional seeing these two guys here, just remarkable, and hearing your roots, how you got here, and your parents. I can't imagine they moved to Wilson to do better than where you were. I mean, it's amazing what you came through. What would your parents, have you thought about that? What would they think about tomorrow or today, and your legacy, both of you?
Well, let me tell you, my father died at an early age. And my mother lived with us as we had babies, real babies, 1 and 3, lived with us for 10 years. And my mother started, as my son, who will be here tomorrow, was like 1 year old. She started asking me, son, have you paid for your scholarship? Well, and I said, no. I said, it's not a loan. She said, I think you need to pay for it. And I'm still early in my business career. I'm still washing dishes. And she told me to pay for my scholarship. So we went through that, and she kept asking me that for couple of years. And so I told her then in '95 after Robert and I got together, and she died the previous year, that is, looked up and said, scholarship was paid for, you know. And
That's a great story.
That's good.
That is good. He
That's
told
good.
her that's a dedication,
Yeah, that's good.
and made me cry then.
oh,
Mhm.
I wasn't planning on crying tonight.
I knew.
I promise you I
Susan,
wasn't.
Susan, we knew he would cheer up, didn't we? Yeah, we did. And Don, what about you?
Yeah. My mother always supported me. My father passed when I was working on my doctorate degree here. And I was able to finish and dedicate that degree to him. My mother really got her reward, I think, before she passed. I was working here, and I had moved to work for Dr. Kayet, and she came up once and came in the building, and I introduced her to the chancellor, and the chancellor gave her a hug, and so from that day on, she thought her son was as successful as he will ever get. So
Yeah.
she wouldn't call this anything now compared to that.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I want to give folks, well, first I'll go to Will Norton, then I want to go to Zoom land. So be thinking if you have a question.
I just wanted to note, Don and Larry, that this is James Meredith's granddaughter right here. It's ironic that she's part of this program.
It is. I got a chance to meet her a little earlier today. We've talked before. I knew that she was here, but I had not met her until today, and I understand that James should be here in the morning, and I'm hoping that all of us will be together on tomorrow.
So anybody from Zoom land have a question? You want to unmute yourself? We can let you ask a question.
My name is Donna Vaughn, and I want to compliment Don on this wonderful recognition. I've been pleased to get to know Don this last year, and I'm glad I could join today. And Don, I also want to tell you I like your socks.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Anybody else from the audience? Yes, in the back.
Good. Professor Dora.
Yeah, thank you. I am highly impressed with what I am witnessing today. My name is George Doe, and Dr. Cole is my friend. I realize we have focused so much on the past and the present, but historical consciousness teaches us that there is always a connection between the past, the present, and the future. I want my friends to tell us something. What does this mean to the future of Ole Miss? What is their projection for the future? So that we can see that link between the past, where we have come to, and where we should be heading. Thank you.
Good question.
What? I couldn't understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So let me just rephrase, because I want you to answer the question after Don. What do, in shortness, what is your hope for the future as we link the past, the present, and the future through this wonderful event?
And George, thank you for that question, and it's been a pleasure to work with you over the years. And this particular event is very, very momentous for the institution. It is groundbreaking. It is shattering. And I believe that others around the country are going to look at what's happening at the University of Mississippi and emulate some of the things that we're doing here in terms of this renaming. This building and these names are symbols, and we are battling with symbols all across America, right now, and we are really defining ourselves as a country symbolically, and this is one of those defining moments, and so those who are part of this program and those who will be a part of it tomorrow are going to be a part of a historic event that will cause them to sort of witness other places, other institutions, and not necessarily just academic institutions, but other institutions as well, non-academics one, follow suit. And so we were perhaps in the past late doing some things, for instance, integration, but on this one, we're on the forefront. And it's just nice for Mississippi not to be on the bottom,
Yep.
to be on the top. And that's what this is representing. So thank you for the opportunity to express that.
And Larry, what would you say your dream or aspirations looking forward are from this experience?
Well, of course, my dream is I hope that it will set the stage for Ole Miss to continue to grow, and with students. It sets an example of who we are here, and I think a lot of people will adjust to that and start thinking positive about where we are and where we're going, rather than getting caught up in the history that's, maybe wasn't positive. So I don't know how to, yeah.
Well said. I think as we close this program out tonight, I hope that you've been able to see through these remarkable two men that the American dream is alive and well, seen by these two guys. And here at Ole Miss, you can succeed no matter where you came from.
Yep.
If you're willing to work hard and follow the example of Don, Cole, and Larry Martindale. Thank you both for being here tonight. And now, many of you know that we like to have reception afterwards. With the pandemic being what it is, we're going to have the reception outside. So you'll have an opportunity to visit with Don and Larry and each other. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and I hope you've been inspired as I have.
Thank you.